5 horrifying true stories of being home alone. Here are 5 horrifying true stories of people who found themselves home alone, and not as alone as they thought. The basement light. It was a snowy night in Minnesota when Claire, a 17-year-old girl, stayed home while her parents attended a party. Around 10 p.m., the power flickered, then went out. The only light came from the glow of her phone. She texted her mom, "Power's out. I'll just stay in my room." Minutes later, she noticed something strange. The basement light, which shouldn't have had power, suddenly flicked on. She froze. The light flickered again, then stayed on steadily. She whispered into her phone, "Mom, is Dad home?" No answer. Then came the unmistakable sound of footsteps climbing the basement stairs, slow, deliberate, scraping the wood. Claire ran to the front door, but when she tried to unlock it, the deadbolt wouldn't turn. The footsteps stopped. She could see the shadow of someone standing behind the frosted glass basement door. And then, in the faint glow of the streetlight outside, a man's hand pressed flat against the glass. The police found muddy boot prints leading from the woods behind the house, and the back basement window shattered open. The man in the closet. Ben, a college student, lived alone in a small apartment. One night, while gaming with friends online, he heard something fall in his bedroom. He shrugged it off. Maybe a draft or his cat. Hours later, when he finally went to bed, he noticed something disturbing. His closet door was slightly open. He was sure he'd closed it earlier. He stared at it for a long time, heart racing, before deciding to check. He pulled the door open, nothing. But just before closing it again, he noticed something on the floor of the closet, a half-empty water bottle, and a pair of muddy footprints leading behind the hanging clothes. Ben called 911, whispering into his phone. The operator told him to stay in the bathroom with the door locked until police arrived. When they got there, they found a homeless man wedged behind a row of jackets, a kitchen knife in his pocket. He told officers he'd been living there for weeks, only coming out when Ben left for class. The baby monitor. When Heather put her infant son to bed, she turned on the baby monitor and sat down to read. A few minutes later, she heard her baby crying through the speaker, followed by a soft, unfamiliar male voice saying, "Shh, go back to sleep." Heather froze. Her husband was on a work trip. No one else was home. She rushed upstairs, her heart hammering. But when she entered the nursery, her baby was sleeping peacefully. The window was open, cold air drifting in. She checked the monitor camera and noticed it was rotating on its own, slowly panning toward her. Authorities later discovered her Wi-Fi camera had been hacked, likely by someone thousands of miles away. But Heather swears that when she reviewed the footage the next morning, for just a few frames, you could see a man's reflection in the nursery window. The knock at the door. Tom, a single father, was tucking his 8-year-old daughter into bed when someone knocked. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door. He opened it a crack. No one was there. Then another knock, this time on the back door. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, calling out into the night. Silence. When he came back inside, his daughter whispered, "Daddy." The man's upstairs. Tom's blood ran cold. He turned and saw wet footprints leading up the staircase. The intruder had slipped in through the unlocked garage door while Tom went outside. When police arrived, they found the attic access panel disturbed, and a small makeshift bedding area up there with empty food wrappers and water bottles. Someone had been living above them for weeks. The voice in the hallway. Lena, a nurse working late shifts, lived alone. One evening, she returned home, exhausted, and fell asleep on the couch. Around 2 a.m., she woke to the sound of her front door creaking open. She quietly grabbed her phone and hid behind the couch, calling 911. She could hear slow, deliberate footsteps crossing the hallway. Then, a voice, a low, raspy whisper. "I know you're awake." Her phone light flashed as she tried to check the call status, and the footsteps stopped. For 5 agonizing minutes, there was silence. When police arrived, they found her back door wide open and muddy prints leading into the woods. They told her something that still haunts her to this day. The intruder had cut the power line to her house before entering. Whoever it was, they had planned to take their time. These were 5 horrifying true stories of being home alone. If you ever think you're completely alone, listen carefully. You might not be.